commercials. I don't know if they're even still on, where it's like, do you have a going problem or a growing problem? I don't know what you have.
Little
Do you
from
remember those
column A,
commercials?
little from column B. I don't know.
I'm just picturing you just like rolling out of bed, like mumbling, like, "Oh, Jordan Matthews," as you get up to piss
Well,
again.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because those are the physical things that are keeping us up at night. But the thing that's keeping us up at night that's fantasy related is struggling with who to pick. When you end up with these two guys that are pretty close to each other in a mock draft, or as it's going to be soon, a real draft, a real fantasy draft, a real fantasy
As they
draft.
get
It's like a
closer
walking
to.
kind of like contradiction as well. But anyway, we're going to hit you with one of those that's been giving us each a hard time lately, and that is, a couple second year guys. Are they in their second year or third year now?
This is third year, actually.
Year number three.
Year
They've
three
had
for
2 years.
these
These guys came in together. Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota.
guys.
It's tough, man. They've both done pretty well in the NFL. Neither one of them's been a bust by any means. They're around each other on most experts' ranking boards. Yours too. And
Yep.
when I do mock drafts, I generally have my pick of them if I want them at a reasonable time to take a quarterback. I could see making this decision in one or more of my drafts that are coming up. So are you struggling with this too? It bothers me a lot.
It really sits pretty tough with me. I originally had Mariota high at QB6 and Winston at my QB7. So, I mean, they're right next to each other anyways. And then this week, Winston goes and has a 9 for 13 performance, 99 yards and a quarter. And the four incompletions, two of them were drops, two of them were non-called pass interferences. I mean, he was flying. The offense was moving at a breakneck pace. He was dropping just dimes into Mike Evans' breadbasket. He now has Deshaun Jackson going over the top with him, OJ Howard terrorizing the seams. I mean, his weapons cast is unbelievable. And the pace I saw that offense moving at, when you're going to combine those weapons in that pace, we talked a lot about Dirk Cutter with Trevor Sikkema and how he finally has the talent to really execute this four verticals scheme. It looked, the first glimpse was just, this is going to be the next juggernaut. And now I'm having a really hard time because I love Mariota. I thought he was very efficient. I think his weapons cabinet got a huge boost this offseason by adding Eric Decker, by drafting Corey Davis. So, I mean, he's seeing his weapons go up after he had a really great sophomore campaign. So they're kind of in the same boat. These days, though, I'm leaning more towards Winston just because those weapons okay. I had Mariota higher. And I mean, this is why it keeps us up at night, because I'll flip flop later tonight when I'm tossing and turning at 4 a.m. about this. It is a really, really tricky one. I just think Winston's weapons, even if I think I like Mariota more as a just decision maker, and I think he's just a more technically sound quarterback. But I think fantasy wise, Winston just has those weapons. He's in the system. He faces, crap defenses 6 times a year because that division is just all about shootouts and bad defenses. Oh man, but then you think Mariota, he doesn't face anything too hard with Jacksonville and Indy.
They're both in pretty lousy defensive divisions.
Great schedules for them both. So I mean, that can't really be the.
You like Delaney Walker?
I like Delaney Walker. I mean, I like OJ Howard and Cameron Bate better, but Delaney Walker still can run. He can still move. And Rashard Matthews was there last year and crushed it with him, and he's returning. He's a number 3 option at this point because of how revamped it is. So I mean,
Mariota's really good in the. I mean, doesn't he seem like he just converts in the red zone like a machine, pretty much? Like way more than you would think that someone like him would, especially with the weapons he had last year. I mean, remember last year going into the year, you and I were really all in on Tajay Sharp, who. I heard he beat someone up in an alley like a couple months ago, but other than that, I've not heard his name since I drafted him on like 2 of my teams. And the guy was still putting up solid numbers with a really suspect Kendall Wright, like people like that he was throwing.
Garbage, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he's got a much better cabinet this year.
Absolutely. You give him Eric Decker, who averages, 1,100 yards, 8 to 9 TDs, 75, 80 catches over his career.
Uses his dick as a lasso for the balls that are like out of
seriously, the biggest hog in the game, according to his wife. And then you draft Corey Davis, one of the premier, the all-time leader in receiving yardage in college football. Just an absolute physical freak. I know he's, dealing with a hamstring injury right now, but that's another great talent. So you imagine, yes, it's a run-heavy scheme, exotic smash mouth, but you imagine this year they're going to open it up a little little bit with that type of weapon cabinet. Plus, I mean, exotic smash mouth, people say it's a detriment, but like you said, it really helps them with their efficiency in the red zone because teams have to stack the box because of how run heavy they are. And when that's the case and you find the one-on-one matchups, Mariota is very deadly accurate when it comes to those tight spaces and threading needles and different things like that. And so that's where he really thrives, is because defenses are keying on the run game. And then now he has, these dominant towering targets in Rashard Matthews, Eric Decker, and Corey Davis, all big 6'2", 6'3" guys. Oh man, now you're getting me excited about Mariota. That's such a tricky one. I think both of them are going to have great fantasy seasons. I really do. But the way I saw the offense moving down the field with Tampa Bay, just they just seem, everything's in sync there, and the weapons are just so good. I just really see Winston being that guy that has like 300 to 400 yards every single day. Yeah, he'll throw gets
picked off a couple times.
Exactly. He'll throw his shitty interceptions because that's what comes with a gunslinger in this type of offense. But you can stomach that as a fantasy owner. You lose 1 or 2 points for an interception. If that comes with 4 deep bombs to Evans and Deshaun Jackson throughout the game, then sign me up. I'm going Winston today. I'm still going to lose sleep over it. But I think it's a can't lose. If you're facing that this weekend coming up, you're going to do well either way. I'm going Winston, though, if I have to.
I think I am grudgingly going to go Winston as well. But it is hard. I don't know. I mean, the picks bother me. He's a pretty unrefined quarterback, even having had a couple years in the league. But he's clearly a great talent, and he's definitely got great weapons. And so I guess from a fantasy standpoint, I would probably take Winston. I would also probably try to draft a decent backup just in case he goes off the rails at some point, which you could probably get pretty cheap. Sometimes I believe, I'm going to draft one quarterback. I would draft someone else as well if I were going to draft Winston.
So the one name I want to throw in there with these guys, I guess
you're
really
going to make this like even more difficult now?
Right. Because, you're going to have to consider all these guys. Do you keep right now I have Derek Carr at 5.
I almost put him in there. I almost put Derek Carr.
Do you keep Derek Carr above these two now?
I do. Mm-hmm. But, it's really funny. I literally had 3 people written on the list. I had these 2 in Carr. Yep. And then I took Carr off just because I thought this was an easier comparison. So it's funny that you brought him up independently. Yes, I would have Carr above these 2. And I honestly think at the end of the day, the reason is that I just think he just seems much more poised than Winston. He's just, you saw what happened to his team when he went out last year. They went from a great team to a garbage team. He just seems like he has the it factor, and I know that sounds like kind of stupid to say, but he just seems like a guy that is a great leader. Now, by the way, I'm not hating on Winston's leadership. He's actually impressed me a ton with what a leader he seems to be. Carr just seems so level-headed in there and just seems like he doesn't throw very many picks at all. And you could also say, he doesn't take as many chances as he should, but he's also got great weapons. So I would lean towards Carr in that situation. But,
yeah, I do.
But, Winston's great. Mariota's great.
I agree with you too. There's just more. If one of them was going to be just elite for the next 10 years, I look at Derek Carr as that guy too. I'm with you. The decision making, the big moments, he always steps to the plate. Whereas I think Winston or Mariota might disappear for a game or two and maybe cost you a week. I think Carr is just going to week in and week out be 18, 20. And then still have those blow up 30-point weeks because he has those weapons. I think this offense, just like the Tampa Bay offense, is going to take that next step with Todd Downing as their coordinator, a guy that's been his quarterback coach for the last few years. They have that chemistry and that no huddle attack. They're saying they're going to try to move at a faster pace as well. So I think just the floor and the ceiling with Carr, the ceiling's equally high. The floor is a little bit higher. I respect him more as an NFL quarterback, and I'm with you there. Then the guy we can't stay on this one all night, I guess, but the other guy, now that Martavis Bryant back, is Big Ben, comes in right below those guys. Does he make you question any of those 3 as well, or do you put Big Ben just 100%
sure?
Those guys?
Of course I question it. I think that the order of those 4 guys, which might be the exact order you have, is I would probably go Carr, Winston, Mariota, and Roethlisberger.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if there's anyone else. I'd have to see the list who I would put in there. But of those 4 guys, that's the order I would put them in. But we have had at least one Wolf on the show that his bold prediction for the year that was that Roethlisberger was going to throw for 5,000 yards. So,
yep.
I don't think you go wrong with any of them. I guess maybe Roethlisberger's maybe the most likely to get hurt. Although, I mean, Carr broke his leg last year. What are you going to do?
And those road splits were just so annoying last year, too. When he was on the road, he really sucked. And I know he didn't have Martavis Bryant, but, like, you couldn't trust him. You couldn't start him when he was on the road.
It was strikingly terrible because he still was just amazing at home. But, I mean, I don't really want to own Big Ben. If I end up with him, I'm okay with it. He's obviously got great weapons, but he's not my first choice of these guys.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we kind of have the same exact rankings, even though it's keeping us both up at night. We can kind of decide on that Carr, Winston, Mariota, Roethlisberger for right now.
I'm going to focus a lot more of my attention tonight on just having to pee. And what and the consequences of that. We're going to come right back with some winners and losers tease for an article the Wolf's actually putting out there on the website pretty soon. Winners and losers from week 1 of the preseason right after this.